Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to planning a retirement in America, the biggest X factor we have to consider is healthcare, and medical expenses can be incredibly high for retirees or soon to be retirees. And there's a very real fear that these medical expenses could balloon towards the end of your life if you're in need of something like assisted living, nursing care, or a memory facility. One of the most common and most important questions I hear is how much do I need to build in as a buffer for medical costs in retirement? So let's walk through the latest numbers, break it down with some real-world examples, and see how you can prepare even if retirement is decades away. Let's start with what current retirees actually spend on healthcare each year. According to RBC Wealth Management, the average annual healthcare expenditure for a 65-year-old is about $6,500 per person, or about $13,000 per couple. Those figures cover Medicare premiums, prescription drugs, and routine out-of-pocket medical expenses. So let's say you have a 30-year retirement ahead of you. How does that look? Well, on an individual basis, that'd be just under $200,000, and for a couple, just under $400,000. And yet, according to a MarketWatch survey, most Americans anticipate spending less than $75,000 on healthcare expenses in retirement. Those numbers are less than half of the projected amounts. So let's look at an example. If you're a couple planning to use a 5% withdrawal rate, you would need about an additional $260,000 in your investment portfolio just to cover future medical expenses. Now, this is important to consider. These projections don't consider dental, vision, hearing, or even long-term care services. These projections are just based off the numbers for Medicare, prescription drug, and traditional out-of-pocket expenses. So it's very likely that you might need more than this. Really, long-term care is a massive financial wild card. Let's take a look at the average annual cost for different types of long-term care services as of 2025. If you're in a nursing home with a private room, you're looking at an average of $128,000 per year. For assisted living, the national average is around $71,000 annually. And if you're receiving care at home from an aide, say 44 hours per week, the average adds up to nearly $78,000 per year. And another really important question in all of this is, how long do people actually need care for? Well, on average, most seniors who require long-term care will need it for about 3 years. But within that 3-year window, the level of care can vary. For example, if someone ends up in a nursing home, the median stay is around 5 months, but the average is closer to 14 months. In assisted living, people typically stay for about 28 months, or a little over 2 years. And it's absolutely true that not everyone will need all 3 types of care, or even 2 types of care, or even 1 type of care. But the stays can add up quickly in length, and when they do, the costs add up quickly. If we take a moment and look at those average length of stays and compare them with the current average costs, well, what does that give us as a total care cost on average? For a nursing home stay lasting about 13.7 months, you're looking at a total cost of roughly $146,000. For assisted living with an average stay of 28 months, the total comes out to about $165,000. And if someone needs home health care for 3 years, receiving about 44 hours of help per week, that adds up to approximately $233,000. These are really big numbers, and it helps to really highlight how important it is to have a plan in place even if you don't end up needing these healthcare services. Now, many seniors need more than 1 type of care as their needs evolve over time, but of course, not every senior needs all 3 levels of care. But it is important to note that about 60% of assisted living residents transition to a skilled nursing facility. So if you wanted to be especially cautious, you might add assisted living and nursing home care costs together, and that would look like about $310,000 in care expenses. So how would you actually plan for this cost? Well, there's a couple ways to think about it. If you want to approach it from the stance of just being incredibly cautious, maybe you just set aside an additional $310,000 on top of what other retirement expenses you were already planning for. You just set this amount above and beyond whatever savings you otherwise had. Or if you expect to need care down the road, say 20 years into retirement, and you're earning around a 4% rate of return on your investments, you'd only need to set aside about $141,000 today by the time you retire to grow into that same amount over time. Now, maybe when you look at either of these approaches, maybe you're thinking they look like two opposite extremes. One where you have the entire amount set aside as you go into retirement, and another where we're looking at a present value today, hoping that in 20 years' time that we have enough. And maybe when you look at these, you say, I don't like either approach. I would prefer more of a hybrid of the two. And that's totally fine because it comes down to what is comfortable for you. There is no one size fits all approach, but at the end of the day, having something set aside for care is always better than having nothing set aside and being caught off guard. Now, of course, all of this is still a bit of a gamble because none of us know if we'll need care, when we'll need care, and for how long we might need care if we end up needing it. But these numbers do give us a framework to work around. A big question is, do people actually need this type of care? You've probably heard that 70% of Americans aged 65 and older will require some form of long-term care. But when we look at today's retirees, not just some projections that a marketing company is making, we see that the picture looks kind of different. In fact, only 13% of today's retirees live in an assisted living facility. And around 2.3% of older adults, that's about 1.3 million people out of nearly 58 million Americans aged 65 and up, live in nursing homes. Now, the chances of needing any type of care do go up with age. About 1% of people aged 65 to 74 live in nursing homes. That increases to 3% for those aged 75 to 84, and it jumps to 8% for folks 85 and older. So yes, the need absolutely increases with age, but it's important to keep in mind that the numbers we're seeing among seniors today are well below the projections we're seeing coming out of companies saying what future seniors will need. And this very well may be due to costs. Maybe these costs are too high, so many individuals and seniors and families try to do managed care at home just because of affordability. Another thing to keep in mind is that we are living longer than ever before, but that doesn't always mean that we're living healthier. Just because you're more likely to live to 90 these days doesn't mean you'll be fully independent the whole way there. And as you get older, the odds that you need help with daily activities does increase. Help with things like cooking or cleaning or even bathing, everyday activities like that. That's why it's so important to consider health span, not just lifespan. Your health span is how many years you are active and living independently, not just the number of years you're alive. Take a look at your family history. Did your parents or grandparents require extended care? How long did they live? What type of support did they need? Did they age at home, or was more intensive care involved? Your personal history can give you a lot of powerful clues, but your genetics don't tell the whole story. How much are you putting into your lifestyle and living a healthy lifestyle? That also can be a powerful indicator. So look at these factors as well as your financial contribution and your emotional contributions when you go to plan for what kind of future you might be looking at. And here's the truth. Hoping for the best isn't a plan. Planning for the what ifs, even if they never happen, can truly be one of the most loving things you do for your future self as well as your family. Another statistic that I already mentioned earlier in the video, but I want to be sure not to gloss over, is that 65% of seniors receive care from family members at home. That means for many of us, many of who are in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, may eventually have time out of the workforce where we're caring for a parent or an aging loved one. This can mean not just time away from work, but financial and emotional strain. And this can absolutely shine light on the fact that preparations for these types of expenses aren't just for those who are at or near retirement. It is for everyone at all stages of life. This may feel like a lot to think about, but taking action now can make a big difference later. Planning for healthcare and long-term care costs is one of the most important and most overlooked parts of retirement planning. But I think sitting down and trying to put some numbers to it can really help to mitigate the fears that surround it. And whether your plan is to build a buffer into your retirement nest egg, whether it is for long-term care insurance, or simply having conversations with your loved ones, you want to start someplace. Do something, because quite simply, doing nothing not only puts your future at risk, but it also puts the future of your loved ones at risk. And as always, the best investment you can ever make is in your own health. Try to preserve your lifespan as well as your health span for as long as you possibly can. What are your thoughts on long-term care and the potential costs that you might face once you get to retirement? Share them in a comment down below. How are you preparing? I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. You're ahead of that sentence didn't make sense. Let's make it make sense for the video. Total cost of roughly 400 really? No. 3 levels of care, or that beep will forever bug me. Hybrid approach. Can I not say approach? Size fits all approach when it comes to this. I'm saying approach so many times that I don't like it. And of course, look at that cute little puppy. He's snoring, and I think I might have just woken him up, so I don't think he's too happy with me. I'm sorry, buddy. It's just like my battery's out and I'm trying to finish this sentence because it's the last clip.